Since before recorded history, the people of Britain have had first-hand experience of the strange and unusual. Spirits who haunt ancient castles, stories of werewolves and banshees roaming the countryside, and fantastic creatures like gnomes, fairies and pixies, all firmly embedded in our native folklore. This cultural experience makes us uniquely qualified to research these types of phenomena and help us find the truth of the reality that surrounds us. So sit back and relax as your hosts, Irene Allen Block and Mark Johnson, take you on a journey through this strange realm and together help us find the answers to the mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp. Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio.
Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio, the flagship show on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm your host, Irene Allen Block, and with me tonight, once again, is my co-host, Mark Johnson.
Howdy ho.
Mark, how are you today?
Good, how's the ho? Sorry. How's the ho? Howdy ho, how the ho?
Oh, that's a foreign language to me, sweetie.
Yeah, some people around this country would understand that.
Yeah. So how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Taking care of a sick kitty. Got into a fight with a neighborhood feral cat, and knowing him, he gave as good as he got.
Yeah, I expect he did. So you got a sore pussy then?
Yes, it was quite beat up. Took a pounding.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a shame.
Yes.
It is a shame. Let's hope he'll be okay tomorrow. If he wants to go back out tomorrow, he's not frightened. He's going to go back out and kick butt.
Yes, he will. No, I'm actually keeping him in for a few days. Let him heal up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Maybe that's a good idea, actually, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
So...
Well, anyway, we haven't got Gertie tonight. Gertie's been put into another room. She's fast asleep. So there'll be no snoring in the background tonight.
I think we should have a contest. We should see who snores louder, me or Gertie.
You heard her today, didn't you?
Oh, she was terrible earlier today.
I know.
Our radio mascot is not so good for radio when we're recording.
But she's got a fan club.
She vibrates.
People like to hear Gertie.
Well, they do, but she vibrates the walls.
Oh, yeah, she does. But you know what she's like. Well, she goes out now and she gets recognised. You know, you can take her to the shops, to the town, and people recognise her now, which is really, really good. She's recognised. I'm not. I'm just nobody. Nobody knows who I am. Gertie, they all know Gertie.
Well, she is a little diva celebrity.
Yeah. She certainly is. Anyway, so what's been happening? Anything been happening in your world besides the cat getting beaten?
Just waiting for winter to get over with here. Been working on doing some more for the Spirit Rescue International website and talking with the team, and we got one case came in for my local New Jersey group that might turn into an SRI case. Just going to be exploring some things and see how everything goes.
Oh, that's good. Do you want to tell people more about SRI?
Well, for people who are interested, Spirit Rescue International, SRI, is an international organization where we help people all over the world with their paranormal issues. You might wonder, well, how can we help people all over the world? Well, we have people working with us who can perform and work remotely, and we've successfully worked on hundreds of cases over the years all across the globe. I think the farthest we ever did was down in New Zealand. So we're able to help people who have issues with absolutely no charge. So you can learn more on our website at Spirit Rescue. It's www.spiritrescueint.com. INT short for international. SpiritRescueINT.com. Visit us today.
Okay. That's lovely. That's lovely. And they can contact you if they've got any problems, Mark. Yes, yep. Mark Johnson.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm holding the reins this time around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your baby from now on.
My baby, I've inherited it. God help me.
Yeah, God help you.
Yeah. Nobody else will.
Stu, I hear you've got a pretty good team, though.
No, it's growing, but yes, we've got some old members and some new members. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
That's great. So anybody with paranormal problems, Spirit Rescue International.
Whether you're
Spirit Rescue International. No, spiritrescueint.com.
Yep. And if you're in the UK, the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Antarctica, we can help.
You certainly can.
Yes. Of course, Antarctica, we might have to wear some extra clothing for that one.
Yeah. I won't say anything.
Okay.
I was thinking something, but I won't say it.
I thought we said enough earlier. We kind of went over some people's heads, maybe. But
okay, maybe.
Maybe.
Right. So, a guest?
Yes, we have a guest.
Yes, and who's our guest?
Okay. Our guest tonight was born in Phoenix, Arizona, lived there most of his life. He now lives in Utah with his wife and their 3 dogs. His grandmother and mother were clairvoyant and would have dreams about things that affected them or their families. Now, he has inherited these things plus other abilities. So we want to welcome Alan Wright to the program. How are you tonight, Alan?
I'm just fine. How are you, Mark?
Doing good. Welcome to the program.
How are you, Irene? I don't want to leave you out.
Oh, no, don't leave me out, sweetie. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I leave her out often enough.
Yeah, he does. So you got 4 books out, Alan?
Yes, I have 4 books published, and I'm writing a 5th right now.
Okay, so that's Through the Veil and Back, At the Edge of Infinity, Roads Less Traveled, and My Destination for the Truth. Is My Destination for the Truth the latest book you've put out?
Yes, that's my 4th book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what are these books about? Are they all different experiences?
They're strictly paranormal, and my experiences in my lifetime. I'm 68 years old, and I'll be 69 in April, so I have quite a few experiences. And when my wife and I got married, I would tell her some of the experiences that I had in my lifetime, and said, you should write a book. And anyway, I didn't really know what the process was for that. I never written anything to be published, Yeah. And I've never sought any. I'm not a professional, and I never sought any compensation for anything that I did. But the very strange thing that I had when I was thinking about this and everything, I had about 250 friends on my friends list on Facebook. And I went to bed one night, and I got up in the morning, and I got on my Facebook like I did every day. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I noticed I had 5,000 friends.
Wow!
And I didn't know how that happened. I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, well, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to start deleting friends or what the process was in that. And I didn't want to delete any of my real friends because, I went to high school with them. They were family and close friends, So I decided just to leave it the way it was and deal with it,
Yeah.
But I in the process, I realized that most of the people on that 5,000 friends list was paranormal. They were investigators. They were clairvoyants. They had everything to do with paranormal. And I thought that was kind of strange too. But anyway, when I found out, I've read a comment from this one lady who was commenting on a posting that was made by another person. And this, come to find out, this person was the owner of Stellium Books, and she was a publisher also.
Yeah.
So I got in contact with her a few days later after I got up the courage enough to contact her, and I asked her if she took on new authors, and she said that she did, and she told me to send her like a bio. Yeah. And also a chapter of maybe in my book that I was intending to write. So that's what I did. I sent it to her, and then so she got back with me, and she said she was very excited to publish my books, and so that's how that came to be.
So it took off from there. But did you figure out how you suddenly got all these 5,000 friends overnight?
No, I never did. And I still got 5,000 of them. I try to relate to as many of them as I can. I try to keep as many of them as I can. But
so that's more or less paranormal in itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I wish tell you, when I was writing one of my books, I just finished one of my chapters, and it was about a spirit person that I had met on my journey in hell. And I wrote about him because I had an experience with him in this life and when he was alive. And after I finished my chapter, the next morning I came out and was going to write some more in my book. And that chapter that I had written the day before was all scrambled. There was all kinds of signs, dollar signs, pound signs. Every word in it was scrambled. Fortunately, I saved sent it to my wife on her phone because she types my chapters and my books.
Yeah.
And everything in it, that chapter was scrambled. And that had to be paranormal, too, because that had never happened to me before. The only thing I can think of was this spirit didn't want me to write about him. And he didn't take a liking to it. And he wanted to do something to make it where I couldn't write in my book anymore.
Yeah. Alan.
Yes.
Your books are on the paranormal, and you've had a lot of paranormal happenings in your life. Have you always believed in the paranormal?
Yes.
You have?
Oh, yes. I have no choice in the matter. If somebody came up to me and asked me if I believe in ghosts, I couldn't say no, because I've had experiences with them.
No, I mean, before you started having the experiences, were you having any experiences as a child?
Yes, I did. I actually saw an apparition when I was just a child. I was probably... I hadn't even started school yet, so I've had these experiences for ever since I was a very small child.
Okay, yeah, Mark, you wanted to ask a question?
Well, going off of your bio, Alan, you'd mentioned that both your mother and grandmother were very sensitive, and that seems to have passed down to you. I also read, I didn't say this on air, but I saw at the end of that it mentions it seems to be getting stronger as you get older. How old were you when you first started to realize that you were possibly seeing or experiencing things that maybe other people weren't?
Oh, I was a small child. Like I was telling Irene, I hadn't even started grade school, elementary school, and I was having these experiences and dreams. I remember going to a camp, a Christian day camp, and I remember having a premonition about things, or deja vu, I should call it. When I have deja vu about something, it's more than just a vision for something, for a flashback or something like that. I have them where they last a long time. And I had that during the camp. I felt like I had been there before, and I hadn't been. And I knew the people that was there at this camp, but I had never met them before. I believe in the pre-existence, and I believe that deja vu is basically a spirit like myself, before coming to Earth, visiting that place, knowing that I might have some kind of contact with it when I was born as a child. And I think deja vu is probably just a memory of that. But my experiences are more than, say, a normal person would have. They're much longer. Sometimes they'll last for an hour or longer. Where the people that I come in close contact with, like at that camp, I basically knew them. I had seen them before.
Yeah, because the normal deja vu experience is just like a second or a couple of seconds, isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's just a feeling of having done that before, or been there before, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you know what? I always have my different ideas on that, because when we start looking at, and we've mentioned this on the show before, on the nature of time, all time is happening at once. So according to astrophysics, with string theory, and even a lot of people in spiritualist people will mention that, time is an illusion. We measure time, but there is no time. It's all happening at once. If it's all happening at once, then perhaps what's happening is, with people like you, or most people who have a little bit of that sensitivity, that clairvoyance, maybe can tap into that and be able to see those things that are all happening concurrently with us in time, that our human brains can only perceive as linear.
I agree. I agree exactly. In fact, in one of my books, when I went and saw my grandfather after he had died, I said that with people who have died, with the spirits who have passed on, there is no such thing as time. There is no time, and they don't dwell on it. And what you're saying is exactly true. They don't worry about time. In fact, when I went and saw my grandfather, I was there for a very long time. I was there for probably days, but it happened to me in a nighttime. 8 hours or so. But I had what I've considered days with my grandfather.
Yeah, so Alan, this was an experience that you had visiting your grandfather after he died in the afterlife, yeah?
Yes, A lot of people say that they've had visitations from their relatives, where the relative came to them.
Yeah.
Mine was just the opposite. I went to see my grandfather, and this happened back in 1983, I believe. And in that time, out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences were just coming around. In fact, I myself had never heard of it. And so when I had this experience, I didn't know how to call it. You know what I mean? I didn't know what to call it. I just call it at that time as a dream. But as I got older and stuff, I realized it could have been an out-of-body experience, or maybe a near-death experience. But I wasn't near death, and I couldn't really explain it as an out-of-body experience either. And then I learned about astral projection. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I had. My spirit had actually went someplace and spent a long time there, what I would consider a long time, in the afterlife, and then came back. And when I came back, it was only a matter of maybe 8 hours, maybe not even that long.
So the length of a nighttime sleep then, normally.
Exactly right.
Mm. So what was it like when you actually went there? What did you perceive? What did you see besides your grandfather?
You want me to tell you the whole process? I can tell you the whole process.
Yeah.
I went to bed that night, and I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I was in this room, and I was up in the corner of the room.
Was the room? Sorry, Alan. Was the room really white?
Well, yes, because it was a hospital room. I found out.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I looked down, and there was my body on this gurney, and this nurse and doctor was standing over me, and they were talking back and forth, and I felt they were talking about me. And anyway, I realized that I had died. That's what gave me the feeling that maybe it was a near-death experience. Yeah. But I think in reality, I was just seeing my own death. Anyway, I was up in the corner of the room, and then all of a sudden I started moving through the ceiling. And I kept moving through the roof of this hospital, and I kept moving upward. And I looked down, and I could see the city that I was living in, and all the lights. This was at nighttime, and there was lights all over. And it was very nice looking, from where I was going. And I kept going higher and then higher and higher. And I started looking down on the earth, and it was beautiful. And one of the astronauts, I think, described it as a blue marble, and that's exactly the concept that I had. It was very good. And anyway, as I was looking down on it, thinking of how beautiful it was, the thought came to me, how can something so beautiful up there and have so much corruption and murder and rapes and war on down on the surface? And this voice came to me, and it came directly into my mind, and it said, the earth is fulfilling the purpose for which it was created. And I thought that was pretty neat. That told me that the earth was created and it had a purpose, and the earth was fulfilling that purpose. Whatever badness was down there, it was fulfilling the purpose for which it was created. And as I kept going up, the earth kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And
okay, I do have to ask you. Sorry for the interruption, Alan.
That's all right.
You mentioned the earth looked like a marble. So
yes,
was it round?
Yes, it was perfectly.
Okay. Sorry for all you flat earthers out there. We have firsthand experience here saying it's not flat. Anyway, go ahead, Alan. Continue.
Okay. As I rose higher, the earth was getting smaller and everything, and I started thinking about myself and my family. I was wondering where I was going, number one, and why I was there. And this voice came to me again, and it told me that because the way I lived my life on this earth, being able to overcome the stumbling blocks that I had, the troubles and trials and tribulations that I had, that's why I was where I was at that time. And then I started thinking about my family and what they were going to do since I wasn't there with them. How were they going to cope? And that voice told me that because of the things that I went through, my family and friends had to go through the same process so that they too could overcome their obstacles, their hardships, and whatever stumbling blocks that they had to go through. And the purpose of this was to make their spirits stronger. And so, anyway, I kept progressing. And as I was going, I was gaining speed. And the speed was tremendous. I can't tell you how fast I was going. All I know was all of a sudden I was in the middle of the universe, and there were stars around me, and they were different colors. And then I kept picking up speed, and the stars began to be streaks. And these streaks, all of a sudden, it was darkness. And I don't know why I was in darkness. But people say that they feel like they were in a tunnel, a lot of times in near-death experiences and stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt like maybe this was it, but I didn't feel like I was in a ending closure, but it was dark, and I felt like I was confined in some way. And as I was starting to get a little bit worried, all of a sudden I saw a pinpoint of light at the end of this so-called tunnel. And this light kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I started to slow down in speed. And I slowed way down, and I entered into this light. And as I entered into this light, I saw this being, this person, in the middle of this light. And this light, I have to describe as love and compassion and charity. And it went straight through my body,
Irradiated.
Yes, it was a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about love, and the humans, when they talk about love, it's a feeling or an emotion. Yeah. This love and compassion was actually a thing, and it went straight through me, and it was coming from that person. And I have to tell you, if you have any how can I put it? I don't want to say sin, but if you have done anything that was corrupted in your life, this charity, this compassion and love was going to find it, because it goes right straight through you. Anyway, as I was getting close to this person was brilliant, white, and he wore a white robe and sandals. And he had long hair and a beard. And just before I got to him, I blacked out. I don't remember going to him or meeting him or anything like that. Now, the next thing I remember was I woke up in a like a meadow, like a pasture. There was deep grass, and there was flowers. I heard water. I was laying down flat, and I heard water in the background, like a stream or a brook. Mm-hmm. And I heard birds in the trees chirping and stuff. And it was pretty much like Earth, except this place was perfect. Everything in it was perfect. The flowers were perfect. The colors were brilliant. The greens and the flowers was brilliant. The colors just
very
was hard
vivid.
To describe.
Yeah, very vivid.
Yes, vivid is the perfect word for it. Anyway, I started to stand up, and as I stood up, I realized that I was in a circle of people. And these people I felt was my friends and relatives who had died before me. And but the person I was paying attention to was my grandfather, and he stood in front of me, and he spoke to me through telepathy. He didn't have to speak. He used his mind, and I heard it through my mind. I had a feeling like I could speak, but I didn't have to. We knew each other's feelings and what we were thinking at the time. And he showed me his love, and I showed him my love for him. And we embraced and everything. And we started walking through this pasture or meadow, and it was enclosed by trees like a forest. And there was this path that was at the edge of this forest. And we walked along this path side by side, almost arm in arm. And he was telling me things. And at this point, I woke up and I was back on Earth. And I really didn't realize what he was telling me for quite some time. And what he was telling me came to me. At this time, I was in my 30s. And like I said, I'm close to 70 now.
Yeah.
And he said he told me it has been coming to me over the years. Things that I probably wouldn't have been able to handle or be able to tell at that time. But as I'm getting older and as I'm on the backside of my life, I can say those things. And if people don't like it, it doesn't bother me.
That's an amazing story. You know, all the time you were telling that, it was like a movie playing out in my head. I could see everything you were saying. I was visualizing it. It was really amazing story. And you, Mark, said that kind of resonated with you, didn't you?
Yeah, that's why I've been so quiet. I've been listening to your story, Alan, and it's really striking a chord with me in a lot of different ways. And that was just one experience that you had. How old were you when you had that experience?
Oh, I was in my 30s. I was born in 1949, and this was about my grandfather died in 82, and this was about a few months after his death, and I think it was about 1983. So I was about, 35, something like that. Maybe I was older, I don't know.
See, a lot of
anyway,
that is very fascinating and strikes a chord. Interesting to me, especially because, I just lost my identical twin brother over a year ago. And all of these thoughts run through my head of the experience that you have with, going and meeting your grandfather. If I could contact my brother that way and see him and know he's okay, and it's just hitting me on that emotional level.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now, Mark. Your spirit knows how to know the truth. And it also knows when it hears the truth. And that is the reason why it hit a chord with both of you, because it's the truth. Everything I write, my books are true. Every experience is true.
That experience that you've just told us, which book is that in, Alan?
It's in my first book. And I go into greater detail in it in my second book, At the Edge of Infinity. Yeah. My first book, Through the Veil and Back, goes into that quite a bit. It tells the story that I just told you.
Well, I think that's an amazing story. Absolutely amazing. And I'm glad you told us it. I really am glad you told us it. And, you're talking about the Earth looks so blue from up there. Another thing, that's why they call it the Blue Earth, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Living on the land and living down on Earth,
we're green. Mainly green. Yeah.
Well,
everything seems to be green, but, from up there, it's all blue.
You see so much of the ocean, that's why it's all blue, because, there's more ocean than there are land masses. And the other thing that you mentioned that struck a chord with me is when you said you were looking down at the Earth, wondering why there's all this pain, misery, and sin, and then the voice said, well, the Earth was built for that purpose.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when you hear from science and they try to tell you how the Earth was formed and how many billions of years have gone by, and then mankind has popped in and we've only just been this one little cosmic blip in the course of time. And, you know, there's even been programs about what would the Earth be like if people weren't here, and you'd think maybe it would all come together more as this paradise. But yet, is that true? I've learned to question a lot about what we've been told about how things were created, and I think there's a lot of it that's wrong. And I've heard more than once that the Earth is. Tell me what you think of this. Is a school. The Earth is a school for us, that we are down here to learn all of these different life lessons and accomplish things while we are here, both good and bad. And it's all wrapped up together on the Earth, that we're here for that purpose.
Well, Mark, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not much for organized religions. I'm really not into them that much. I think religions, for the most part, has caused a lot of the death and everything and the problems on the earth.
I agree.
But saying that, I don't have a problem with the Bible and what it said and with the scriptures. I can match the scriptures with what I saw and what I know to be true, and I have no problem with it. In the Bible, it says Earth was created in 6 days, and on the seventh he rested. To me, that's just a period of time. And for God, who has no time, he had to put it in a way where Moses could understand it. And he did it that way. A day to him could have been 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. It doesn't matter to God. There's no time where he's at. And when you die and your spirit passes through that veil, you have the same concept of time, which there is no time. You don't wear a watch. You don't have clocks. There's no time. When the Bible says that this life is eternal, it is eternal. We have no beginning and no end. So when you die, you are going to go on in some form. Now, I don't want to tell you what form that might be until I tell you the astral projection I had when I went to hell. But
yes, that's the one. That's the one I'm waiting for.
But this.
Well, that was my first marriage.
Yeah, it might have been. No, but this life is eternal, and the purpose of this earth is to make you strong, your spirit strong.
Yeah.
For the purpose of that, I don't know. I did not find out why your spirit has to be stronger. But anyway, I know you progress through the eternities, and you progress through, how can I put it, levels, and you progress as you learn. You move on to greater things or better things or whatever it is. Even the people in hell are learning, and they get to move on also, but their progression is really handicapped by the way and by the things that they did in this life. What else can I say?
Well, I was gonna ask two questions on that. First of all, is within your philosophy and what you have experienced, do you believe in reincarnation?
No, I don't.
No. So
animals have spirits.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own spirits, just like people do. And they were created just like Adam and Eve were created. When our little pets die, their spirit moves on also. And I know, as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you, that I will be able to see those pets when I move on.
I believe that.
Huh?
I believe that.
It's like I said, your spirit knows truth, and you can identify with it and relate to it. It's true. it would not make sense to me to come back as a rabbit or something else like that, or come back as another person. That's just not true. I don't know why. I can say maybe it's evil that's trying to make people believe that. But what I learned when I went to this place where my grandfather was at, that each person has their own spirit, and that spirit was from God, whoever that God is. Now, I saw a person dressed in a white robe with a beard and whatever, and I related to that from pictures that I had seen in books and magazines or whatever. But, I don't know whether that was just projected to me as so I could relate to it, or whether that was.
Well, I often think that may not be the true form, but because that's the form that we'll accept and we can understand, that's how it's related to us.
Exactly. I know whatever it was highly intelligent.
Yeah.
I know that this light that I was in came from him.
Mm-hmm.
He was all being, almighty, if you want to call it that. I had a feeling that him and whoever was with him created this earth. And I was told that it was fulfilling the purpose for which it was created.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to argue with that.
No. I don't think I'd question it either. No, it does seem to make sense. Everything you've said so far seems to make sense. It's really interesting. So the hell and back, you also went there.
I went, this was about Christmas time last year. I had this astral projection. And I went to bed one night, my wife and I, and all of a sudden I was in this place, and I was on this road. It was basically a wide dirt path. And this place I was in was dark, very dark. You couldn't hardly see your hands in front of you, but I could see shadows and stuff. And it looked like buildings and stuff up on a hill to the left of me. Yeah. And down there to the right of me, there was like a small valley and stuff, and there was buildings there also. And this path that I went on sort of went through the middle of this, if you want to call it a village. I had a feeling that these buildings were vacant, and there was no light coming from any of them. And this place was just nothing but darkness. But anyway, there was this spirit that wanted me to come over towards him. And I could see him. He was like what the ghost investigators would call as a shadow person.
I was just going to say shadow man.
Yeah, he was motioning for me to come over to him with his hand. And I didn't want to go, but yet I wanted to know what he wanted and who he was. So I kept on the path, and I kept moving slowly towards him. And he would not come out in the open. He kept hiding around the corner of this building. All of a sudden, I had a feeling behind me that there was these people behind me too. And all of a sudden, I had a fear that these people, whoever they were, these spirits, would maybe attack me. But as I got closer to him, he wanted to be coming into the shadow with him. And I told him no, and I asked him what he wanted. And I gathered from being with him, as you know, I'm a sensitive, and an empath, and I picked up on his feelings and his thoughts, and his thoughts were that I dealt with him in this life, in this physical life that we're in right now, and that I had dealings with him. And the only thing I can think of was I give blessings to people, and I knew this one woman, and she had she was mentally handicapped, and she got these tremendous headaches. And I would go over and give her blessings every so often when she wanted me, and that kind of relieved the headaches that she was having. But her husband didn't like me. I guess he thought I was a blowhard, or I was make believe or something. I don't know. But anyway, he didn't like me, and he would let me into the house, but he would stay out in the kitchen. And I know that I picked up on him too there, that he abused his wife, and there was a lot of domestic violence going on there. But anyway, I felt that was the person, the spirit that I was dealing with. And while I was there, he kept wanting me to come closer, and I finally said, no, I'm not. And this place that he was in, there's nothing but dread and regret. And how can I put it? There was feelings of hate, and not so much for other people, but for yourself. And I finally asked him why he wouldn't come out in the open, and he said that he was afraid that this other spirit would be there. And come to find out, he had murdered somebody in this life, and he was afraid that that person was dead, and that his spirit would be looking for him. That's the reason why he was hiding in this shadow by this building. But it was hard to describe this place, because if you can think of anything negative, it was there. There was fear all over this place. In fact, I was fearful just being there. But I knew that I would not be attacked, but I still had the fear that I was going to be. And I spent some time there, but not as long as I did with my grandfather. And soon after I woke up. But the experience of being in that place stayed with me. And for about 2 weeks, it just messed me up.
I was going to say, when you actually came out of it, whether it played on your mind. And obviously
yes, it did. It really did. For about 2 weeks. You can ask my wife. I was, I guess, preoccupied with this place.
Why Alan, why do you think you were shown that?
Well, I was called there by that spirit. Maybe I was allowed to go there to experience that and know what those people go through. It's the only thing I can think of. I'm an empath. I'm a passive medium, and I'm a passive medium because I cannot call a spirit out to me. They come to me, and this spirit here was calling me out, and he was calling me to where he was at. There's a belief out there that there's hell. Hell is in the middle of the earth, and that's not true.
So maybe this spirit created this whole experience for you because he wanted contact with you then.
Well, he maybe created the experience, but he did not create the place where he was at. That place has been created for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was his doing, pulling you there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
I believe in different levels of hell, and I believe in different levels of heaven.
Yeah.
And I believe when you die, you go to one of those levels, and I believe my grandfather went to a place that I call paradise. It's a normal human being that would probably be heaven, but I called it paradise because this was a place that was preparing him for a better place. And now this place that I call hell, it was a place for this person also when he died. And as he progresses, whatever he has to do, he can move to a different level of hell, which might be better for him, I hope.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's bad. That place was really bad.
Well,
all I can say is, wow. Wow, what a story. This is going to be a good read, this book. Definitely going to be a good read, people.
Well, let me ask people that are in this hell, are they stuck there for eternity? Can they get out of it? Because the only problem I've ever had with these concepts of heaven and hell in a one-time, I'll be honest with you, I do believe in the idea of reincarnation or a cycle of return for learning different lessons in human lifetimes, not animals. But what always bothered me, I never really believed in a hell because it never made sense to me that, you could come on this planet, live 70 years, which is nothing in terms of the millennia, the whole universe, and yet those actions in that lifetime can condemn you to an eternity in one place or another. And I've always felt like that we as spiritual beings are on a path of learning. And so it seems to me that even some people, they may wind up in a version of a hell for whatever they did in their recent lifetimes or what their struggles are. But there is an opportunity for a redemption of some sort of people learning those lessons and advancing forward. What's your take on that?
Well, that's what I was trying to relate to you, Mark. Those people that's in this place can move on, and the place that they move on to will be better. They put themselves there. And remember, I told you that light coming from that being goes straight through your body. It's going to find it. And you put yourself into whatever level you end up in. These people that's in that level right now that I went to, at some point will be able to work themselves to heaven. That's the way it is. I don't have a belief in heaven or hell. I have a knowledge of it. It's like I told my wife the other day, do I believe in God? I don't have to believe in him, because basically what I saw sitting there in that robe was God in whatever form that he wanted to project to me. That was God. Yes, I know that there's a God. Now, whether there's a Satan or not, I cannot say that. I can only judge, since there was a God, that there must be Satan according to the Bible. But Satan did not project himself to me when I went to this place. But you're right. This torment and stuff that people go through in this hell, number one, they put themselves in there themselves. And it's going to be themselves that has to get themselves out. But it's not eternity. I'm sorry, it's just not eternity. Our lives, our spirits will live forever. But what the process right after death is not forever. I'm sorry, except we will work ourselves to a better place. Everybody will be. I don't know how else to put it. Did I explain it good enough for you, Mark?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Is sometimes these concepts, which I think a lot of them, when you try to take the time to think about them, are just a little bit beyond our comprehension. When you compare being in the human time frame for a couple of years compared to being in an eternity in a spiritual form afterwards, it feels like there might be something missing in there. There may be other things going on that we may not be privy to. or fully understand.
Yeah.
And, as when you mentioned with seeing God and how he presented himself to you, that's actually something that I've heard a lot from people. I've talked to a lot of people who've had near-death experiences, and depending on their personal beliefs seems to determine who they meet in terms of crossing over to the afterlife for their period of time, whether if they're from a Catholic background, they see St. Michael or St. Germain, or who was it we talked to that time, Irene? It was St. Germain, I think, that the person saw. But yet that won't be the same for somebody, living in Buddhist culture or Islamic culture or anything like that. So I think that whatever people see, it tailors itself to better be able to be understood and comprehended by people who don't understand just yet, are not capable of understanding.
I agree with you, Mark. In my book, in my last book, I go into, you've heard of old souls or old spirits,
yes.
Describing, say, a person in your family or somebody that you knew. He's an old spirit or an old soul.
I always describe my mother as a new soul because she was very naive on so many things.
Yeah.
But you can meet sometimes you can meet someone and you just know they're an old soul.
Yeah, really. Well, I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
My wife is an old soul. We, in the pre-existence, before we came to Earth. Now, let me go back, Mark, to help you a little bit. Would you say that our bodies is energy? Or our spirits?
Well, that's an excellent question. It depends on how you want to break it down. We could look at our bodies as being physical matter, but when you break it down to the subatomic level, it is energy, because everything is energy.
Science will tell you cannot destroy energy.
Right. Energy can't be destroyed.
You can only change it to another form.
Right.
But you cannot destroy it. So when you die, this physical body falls away. What you have left is that energy that made your body move, that gave you your personality, the whole 9 yards. Now, where does that go? Energy is part of that spirit. So that spirit's energy. This body that we have is basically a glove that fits over that energy. And these people that can see your aurora, they can see that energy. And if your body wasn't there, that aurora would be so bright that probably almost blind them. But anyway, that is forever. That's eternal. That's the part that's eternal. So anyway, I told you in the pre-existence, these spirits, they come to Earth. They form families or whatever. These old souls, these old spirits, are the spirits that help these spirits come to Earth and prepare them to come to Earth. They help their own families. They help their own friends or close friends or whatever. Most of the time, the people that we associate with on this earth, we have been with in the pre-existence. We knew them. Our spirits knew them. That's the reason why we have such a close connection with those people. There are people that I can run into and feel like I've known those people from somewhere before. That's because I'm an old spirit. Now, these old spirits come to Earth later because they're helping other people to come to Earth. And when they come to Earth themselves, their spirits, and receive their physical bodies, they are very appreciative of what they have right now. They're appreciative of the earth. Most of these old spirits, they're involved with animals. They're involved with saving animals. They're involved with saving the earth, and they're involved with things that's pertaining to the earth or to these animals. how else can I? They enjoy life. They do not mutilate or defile their bodies because they know how much it took for them to get one. And when they die, they go back at some time. I believe the Bible, at some time when these spirits are able to, how can I handle it again, they're going to be put back into a physical body. We will receive those physical bodies. What happens after that, I don't know. But I know that that will be probably towards the end of our progression as we go through these different levels. All this was revealed to me back when I saw my grandfather, but it wasn't revealed to me until at different times in my life. And like I said, if I came back and muttered all this stuff instantly, they would have threw me in a crazy house someplace or something. But what I'm telling you is the truth. This was what was told to me when I went and saw my grandfather.
Now, Alan, what are some of the other things that you have experienced in your lifetime? That you've written a lot of books. So what other types of paranormal experiences have you had?
Before we get started there, Mark, could I say one thing?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
You said you had a twin brother and that he had passed.
Yes. A year ago, August.
I believe that twins, triplets, so on and so forth, were very close in the pre-existence. They formed a special bond, and that's the reason why they came to Earth together. And I still feel that you have that bond with him. And I'm no as sure as I'm standing here that you feel him close to you at times. And I also feel that he comes to you maybe once or twice, maybe more in dreams.
Yes, he has. He has.
And I'm going to tell you, when you pass, he's going to be there waiting for you. I can tell you that. Okay. Back to my books.
Well, that is bang on.
Yep.
Bang on that.
Yep. Well, the one dream, it took a few months after he passed. I was kind of hoping I would see him in a dream, and, it was taking a while. I was getting a little frustrated, and then one night, I just suddenly had this dream. I was in this white room. It was almost like porcelain white tile, almost like a bathroom, but there was no bathroom in there. It was just this white room. And I turned and looked, and there was my brother standing there smiling at me. And I've told this story a couple times before. Bear with me, people who've heard it. Usually when people see somebody like that, a loved one, what's the first thing you do is go hug them or whatnot. Typical of the relationship of my brother and I just looked at him with a grin, and I said, "It's about fucking time you showed up." And that's just the kind of relationship we had. And he eventually, and then I remember he was telling me things. It was kind of like what you had with your grandfather telling you things. I just don't remember them. Maybe they'll come up again sometime way down the line. But all I knew is he was talking to me about something, but I just don't remember what it was.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're like me, you'll remember those things. They come to you. And you know that they're true because when they come to you, you'll get goosebumps through your whole body almost.
Right.
And those goosebumps is your spirit telling you that those things are true.
Definitely. Most definitely. So, so getting back to your experiences.
Well, in my first book again, in the first chapter, I wrote about, I was in my early 30s again, and I was working nights in this grocery store, stocking shelves, And I usually got home in the morning, you know, around 6:30, so something like that. And I would eat some breakfast and then go to bed. And anyway, during that period of time, this was probably, I can't really remember. I think it was in the 70s. But anyway, this newspaper reporter in Phoenix was killed. He was reporting on organized crime and politics and stuff in Phoenix, Arizona. And anyway, he was led to this hotel by this guy that was supposed to give him some information. And he waited for the guy, and he never showed up. And when he went back out into the parking lot and got into his car blew up. And it blew off like both his legs, I think it was, and one of his arms. And he laid in the hospital for something like 10 days. They were trying to basically make him live. Anyway, when I came home that morning, I went to bed. I was sleeping, and I had this dream. I had this dream that this doctor and this nurse was, two doctors came out of this room, and they were walking down the hallway, and they were talking about each other, to each other, and they were talking about how they did everything that they could. That's as much as I heard. Anyway, when I woke up around 5 o'clock, when the 5 o'clock news was on, it was reported that this Don Bowes, this reporter, had died. And what I saw was basically his death and when it happened. And I actually knew about it before the newspapers and stuff did, because they did not report it right away. They had like a press conference. So I knew exactly when he had died, and I had seen it in my dream. That's one of the experiences that I write about in my first book. I also write about a house that my wife and I bought a couple of years after we were married. and we didn't realize it at the time, and the house was haunted.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, we moved into this house, and it didn't start out right away, but after we'd been there for a while, my wife Lori said that she could see shadows down the hallway at night. They were going down the hallway and stuff, and in the living room, we could see the hallway and part of our living room from our bedroom. And so anyway, we kind of brushed that off. We didn't do much about that. Maybe we should have. But at the same time, I was getting this this thing would rush up on me, and the only way to describe it was like a banshee.
Oh.
I knew it was female,
Mm.
and when I was sleeping at night, it would rush up on me and scream in my ear, just scream in my ear. And I woke up out of a sound sleep. And sometimes this would happen two or three times at night. And that's when things started getting worse. In my book, I called it the Banshee on Dunlap Avenue, and that's the house where we live.
That's a great title.
But anyway, she'd do that at night. And one time I came home from work in the afternoon, and there was flies, hundreds of flies in the dining room and in the part of the kitchen area.
Yeah.
And they were up in the windows, hundreds of them. And of course, we have dogs, and I didn't want to spray poison around for fear they would get into the poison and get sick and stuff. And so I just took out a fly swatter and started swatting those flies. And it took me a couple of hours to kill all those flies. And they were these fat, juicy flies. That's the only way to call it.
The big horse flies, yeah.
They call them blue bottles over here.
Yeah, well, they usually hang around dead stuff too.
Yeah, blue bottles.
That's exactly what it is. And I didn't realize. I don't know why I didn't realize this, but it's also a sign of evil in your house. And anyway, when we found out what it was, we had a blessing done on our home. I invited a friend over, and him and I did a blessing on the house.
Yeah,
and that took care of the flies and stuff, but it didn't take care of the shadow people.
What about the banshee lady? Did she go?
Yeah, she went after that also. But I talk about that in my second book, or was that? Oh, my third book. I'm sorry. Let me see. I got so many books going on here. I don't. Just buy them all, and then you'll find out.
Pick a book, any book.
Start buying the books from the first one and end up right through to the end one, and you'll find the story, people.
Well, I know me. That's exactly what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Banshee on that. It's in my third book, Roads Less Traveled. And this book is basically telling, that's exactly right. My life has taken roads less traveled. I've done things that other people probably wouldn't even think about doing, and things have happened to me that probably other people, it wouldn't happen to them.
Going back to that house, are you still living in it, Alan, or have you sold it?
No, we sold that house. In fact, we let it go back to the bank. It was during that housing crutch over here in America, where the houses appreciated a whole bunch in a matter of a couple of years.
Well, that's what's happening over here right now with Brexit, I tell you.
And there was no way we could sell it and retrieve any of our money, and our payments were just out of the through the roof type thing,
Yeah.
No pun intended, but we let it go back to the bank. It was still haunted when we left, but not really as bad as what it was when we lived in there. But, yeah.
So this, what you done with your friend, this clearing type practice that you done with your friend, actually did help the house.
Yeah, it did. It helped quite a bit. Every once dealing with the spirits and stuff, I find they try to attach themselves to me, and in fact, a couple of them do, and I have to cleanse myself basically. And my wife, she's a passive medium also. She has dreams about her family and stuff. She was telling me just the other night morning about the dreams that she had too about her family. But we have to do that, and we have to do our house too. So basically every house is haunted, but this house was more so, and it was evil. It was evil stuff. So.
Yeah, I've had an attack of the flies in this house at one time. Well, twice, where the dining room has got absolutely black with flies in the middle. Yeah, and late in the year when you shouldn't be getting any flies.
Exactly. At first, I thought maybe something got killed out in the road or something, and it was laying somewhere on the property. But then I was wondering how the flies were getting into the house because we left no doors open. We didn't, have any windows open. There was no way they could get into the house.
That was the same thing here, Alan. Yeah, and we even had the floorboards up looking for something that may have crawled under there and died. Nothing.
Yeah. The strange thing, Irene, is after this lasted for a couple weeks or so, coming home and killing these flies every day, having to use a dustpan and a broom to sweep them up off the floor every day. It was really bad. But what happened afterwards? We would be watching television or something, and these flies, they're ghost flies. They would fly up from the floor and go in front of the TV. You could actually see them flying in front of the TV. But then you get, I would grab a fly swatter about ready to hit one, and it wasn't there. They were ghost flies. And the only thing I can think of is those flies had spirits too. And when I was killing them like mad, their spirits were still in the house. They turned into ghosts.
Wow. Well, I was lucky there. I don't think I got any ghost flies, but I did get hundreds of flies. And, you know, I had a friend staying here with me once, and even she saw them, and she was amazed. Because we couldn't figure out where they come from. Like you said, there was no doors, no windows open. It was cold. It was a cold part of the year. There should have been no flies.
Maybe you should have your house blessed also, Irene, because those flies come from evilness. Whenever you see those, it means there's evil presence in your home.
Well, you could say that. Are you laughing, Mark?
Yes, I am.
The house is on ley lines, and every now and then something bad gets in. I know something bad gets in every now and then. You know, just kind of boot it sort of out. But
yeah, right.
Yeah. We get there's so many things go on in this house, Alan. You'd love to be in here, I tell you. It's a big old Edwardian house with many, many ghosts. Well, and when I go as well, I'll be a ghost in here because I'm not giving this house up for anybody. I'm not moving out.
Really, huh? Well, I also talk about that in my third book there, Roads Less Traveled.
Yeah.
I talk about the flies and the haunted house and the banshee and all that.
I can just see you with a swatter jumping around, banging these flies everywhere.
Yeah, they were so fat and disgusting. They couldn't fly really fast. They would fly, but it was like in slow motion type thing. And I was hitting them in midair even. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. Yeah, really nasty.
Well, we get two types like that over here. We got the blue bottles and we got blowflies.
Yeah, I think these were probably more like blowflies. That's a look. I think those are the kind too that hang around dead bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
But all my books, like I said, are true experiences I've had. I've talked about the deja vu that I've had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
About the apparition that I saw back when I was a kid.
Was that the only haunted house you lived in, though, Alan?
I want to say yes, but it's not.
No.
Actually, the home we're living in right now, it has a presence in it also. We found out after we moved in here that there was a old man that lived here, and he left one day and went out in the desert up here in Utah. Well, actually, he went down to Nevada around the Las Vegas area, and they found his pickup truck. I don't know how long. He'd been out there for a long time, and he had died out in the desert from the exposure, I guess.
Oh.
But we moved into this place, and we feel it's the old man's spirit that's still in here. He hasn't done anything mean. He hasn't tried, he doesn't scare us in any way. It's just little things like I'll turn on the porch lights at night on the front porch and the back porch, and we'll go out there later, and one of the lights have been turned off, or both of them's been turned off. It's like he to save electricity or something. I don't know, but just little things like that we find.
Well, I've got 3 in here, and I find them really comforting because I spend all week here in this house on my own because my husband works in London. So he's only down at the weekends, and that's why I've got so many dogs. But the dogs and my spirits in the house it's just a nice atmosphere. It's nice to have them. And I know when I walk in a room, whether there's one in there, you can tell straight away, bang, it's in there, you know?
Yeah.
And I know which one it is. And if it's Herbert, I usually say, excuse me, you know, I want to go to the toilet. Could you get out? Because where the bathroom is, he was a deacon, you see. He was a blacksmith, but he was also a deacon. And where the bathroom is where he used to write his sermons. And quite often you'll go in that bathroom and you know he's in there. You can feel him in there. The whole atmosphere, you know he's in there. And as soon as I say, you know, please, you know, can you go out? Can you go outside the door or whatever? It moves. It just shifts as if he's, okay, I'll be back in here. Yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes. Yeah. It's amazing.
We have a little white Chihuahua, and we watch TV on our bed, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, she'll look up in the corner of the room, and I think she sees that old man's spirit.
Yeah.
I think animals can see things that we can't see, and she looks up there quite often, and I think that's what she sees. She sees something up there. I mean, a dog wouldn't keep looking up there in the corner just for nothing, you know.
No.
And I think she sees him. But like I said, he really doesn't cause us any problems, and so we haven't done anything to him so far.
Well, the way I look at it, you know, this was their house before mine, and if they want to stay, who am I to kick them out?
Yeah, really, you know.
Yeah, they go when they're ready.
Yeah. I find typically the older houses are the ones that's haunted, and they have these spirits in them. I don't know why. The house that we had that had the flies and the shadow people and the banshee, it was pretty close to 70, 75 years old. I remember as a kid going by that house. It was in the same neighborhood that I lived in when I was a kid. I remember going by that house, so I know it was a very old house. And it was haunted. It was also empty for a long time, and I was told by our next door neighbor that these drug people, these addicts, would come over to the house and they'd use drugs inside the house and everything. And that could be a part of it too. We found a pentagram in the house, and you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
wow.
It's such a shame. It's you know, there are so many houses over here are haunted. Well, let's face it, half of them date back to medieval times. You know, so
really.
And they are absolutely beautiful and fantastic houses, but. This particular house, Glenant, was built. He started building it in the late 1800s, and he finished it in 1910. So it's classed as an Edwardian house, but it's got a lot of Victorian features as well in it.
That's pretty neat.
And the family that's in here are the family that built it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I in one of my books also I talk about Ouija boards.
Oh yeah.
And as a teenager, believe it or not, my mother got one, and she brought it out one day, and we were trying to make it work. And my sister and myself, we got it to work, and so we messed around with this Ouija board for quite some time, and the longer we messed with it, the stronger it got. And towards the end there, it almost felt like it was taking us over, you know. It almost felt like it was possessing us in a way. But that thing, one night we had a knock at the door, and it actually spelled out, who's at the door? And when another member of the family answered the door, it was one of my sister's friends that she went to school with. And that's what we said. And the Ouija board says, tell her to leave. I don't like her.
Oh, my God. Well,
yeah.
I know. Well, Ouija boards were invented as a game. Let's face it, they were invented as a game. They were banned in this country,
Yeah,
well, hey, they're sold by
a game.
But
they're sold
the
by
intent that goes behind it.
They're sold by Parker Brothers, and they says for children 8 years and up.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to.
Are they still selling them out there?
Yeah, totally. And here's what's funny is you have to be 21 to go and buy a 6-pack of beer, but you only have to be 8 to summon demons from hell.
Yeah. That's about right too.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary. I found out with Ouija boards, they'll tell you the truth as long as you know what the truth is. The minute you try to ask about your future or something that you don't know about, they lie through their mouths. They just lie. They do not tell the truth when you're asking them questions that you don't know about.
Oh, they will lie.
How many kids do I have? Of course, I have 2. You know that, so the Ouija board will say 2. Or what's Aunt Sally's name? Of course, the Ouija board's going to tell you. But if you start asking something about your work history, whether you're going to get promoted or not, and all this stuff, it's going to lie. It's going to lie every time because it don't know. Those evil spirits, they don't know what you're going to do until you've done it.
So what was your outcome with the Ouija board? Did you just lose interest in it, or did you take a lesson from it, sort of thing, and decide that you weren't going to use it anymore?
Well, that night when it was asking who my sister's friend was and to tell her to leave and everything, I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and I took out my cigarette lighter and I burnt the corner of the board, and it didn't like that at all. It went over to the corner of the board and wouldn't move anymore. It just quit moving for us. So we put it away. I think my mother put it away. About 20 years later, we went back to it. And by this time, I had been married and my sister had been married. Her husband had served over in Vietnam. He was open door machine gunner for the helicopters that were spraying the Agent Orange on the jungles over there, and stuff.
Yeah.
And anyway, when he came back, he developed cancer, throat cancer, and I think it was from breathing all that Agent Orange through the door of the helicopter. But anyway, he died. And anyway, went over to her house one time, and she had not married yet. And we were having a family get-together. Well, she says, guess what we found? And I said, what? And she said, we found that old Ouija board. And she brought it out, and I didn't think it was going to work. But, it just started moving. And she says, I know what to ask it, because I didn't really know what to ask it. And I said, what? And she said, let's ask it what Tom used to call me, his secret word for me or to me. I said, okay, so, it's spelled out baby, B-A-B-Y.
Oh.
That hit her right to her heart. She started weeping and crying. And I think that's what a Ouija board is for. It's for causing grief. It's for causing negativity in somebody's life. It doesn't really uplift anybody's life. At the time that we used that Ouija board, it was lying to us at every step.
Well, it is true, because the stories you hear about Ouija boards, it's always bad stories. You never hear of anything good happening in someone's life because of caused by the Ouija board, do you?
Exactly.
You never hear of somebody winning the lottery because the Ouija board gave them the numbers or anything like that.
Exactly. If they told the truth all the time, we'd have nothing but a bunch of winners, huh?
Yeah.
That's the first track, too.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I talk about the Ouija board in my books. I talk about blessings that I've given people. I'll tell you this one story if we have time. Uh, uh, we knew this family, and the lady, the mother, lived a couple blocks away from our house. But anyway, she called my wife one day, and she said that her daughter had been in a bad accident, and that we just lived off from a real windy road. It was really bad, and there was a couple bars along this road. But anyway, her and her boyfriend went to one of these bars, and for some reason they got into a fight, and she left the bar, and she was going to go out into it was a Jeep, no top on it or whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, she got in this Jeep, and her husband came out, and for whatever reason, he decided he was going to drive. And alcohol and roads don't mix, or cars don't mix.
No.
But he got in this car or in this Jeep and started speeding along this windy road. And they came to this dip in the road, and it came up immediately to a sharp turn. And he didn't make that sharp turn. He was going too fast. And this Jeep had flipped several times and threw her out of the vehicle. And she hit her head on the ground when she hit the ground. Paramedics and the hospital and everything didn't think she was going to live, but she was still alive when they got her. But anyway, her mother wanted to know if I would go to the hospital and give her daughter a blessing. Yeah. And I said that I would. And I went to the hospital, and I was able to get into this emergency room because I told the hospital that the family wanted me to give their daughter a blessing, and that I was lay clergy. And so anyway, I went into the room. I had a friend with me at the time. He helped me. And in a type of blessing like this, I use olive oil, a virgin olive oil. And but anyway, I went into this room, and this girl was hooked up with every kind of machine you'd ever want to see. There was wires and tubes and everything going in and out of every orifice that she had. And I tried to work my way back to the back of her where her head was. And she was not in bed. She was in a contraption. It looked like a chair that the feet was raised up in the air. Her arms was on a lot like armrest. It was a contraption like I haven't seen before in a hospital, but I guess they use it in emergency situations in the ER.
Yeah.
I finally made my way back among these machines and everything where I wouldn't hit anything. And my friend also made his way back on the other side. And I asked him to anoint her with the olive oil. And he couldn't find a place to do it on her head. She had bandages and everything all over her head. Finally, he found a place, and he put a little bit of olive oil on it. And I gave her blessing. You know, the strange thing about it was usually I can send out or give out my blessing immediately. But this time I could not. It's like somebody had closed my mouth and I couldn't say a word. My mind went blank. It was just erased. But anyway, after a while, I was able to, the only words I said was, in the name of Jesus Christ, respond to treatment and therapy. That's the only thing I said. That's the only thing I could say.
Yeah.
And anyway, we worked our way out of that room again. And I went back to our house. And that night, it was the very next morning, the mother called my wife again. and she was crying. She was all upset, and she said that the doctors had told her that her daughter was brain dead, and that they wanted to take her off life support. And I told my wife, I said, well, you tell her to tell the doctors to go ahead and do whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted to take her off life support, tell them to go ahead and do it, because her daughter's not going to die. And, she didn't.
She didn't.
Last time I heard, she was married and she had 3 or 4 kids, and they had moved to California.
Wow.
So there's a force out there to be reckoned with.
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of go with that in one of my books. Also, I talk about shaman. And
I know Mark will like this. Mark, talk about shaman. Mark will be really interested in this.
I was taking last year. I was taking some shamanic practitioner healing classes last year. So something I'm very interested in.
Yeah, well, shaman's been around since the beginning of time. Any village, any ancient village, any group of people that lived together would have a guy that would be a shaman, would be a medicine man, and he would know what to do in case of illnesses and stuff like that. And like I said, it's been around since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humans. And I believe in it. I know it works. And I don't know if anybody can be a shaman, but I know that certain people come to this earth, and some of those people have the ability to do this. And I know that for a fact. Any comments, Mark?
Well, as someone who has not only witnessed it in person, but has learned and has done some of the healing myself, it's a really fascinating experience, especially when you learn to let yourself go and let spirit work through you. Because you're just the hollow bone. You're just the vessel for it to come through. There's no ego involved in it. But the feeling it gives you, though, too, when it works and it kicks in, is really incredible. And and also watching what it does for people that you've helped and worked on. Shamanic healing, there's a lot of benefits to it that... I'm no fan of modern medicine these days. While there have been advances in modern medicine, there's been big step backwards. When you have a for-profit business, it's all about the money. And I believe that we could cure most things, most maladies these days. They just won't do it because if you cure everybody, you can't sell your drugs to people. So, it's...
I know on this one case, that girl that I gave a blessing to, what I did, the modern medicine and all their machines could not do. So there's a power out there, I know. And like you said, you have to clear your mind, and you have to be ready to give a blessing like that. Like I said, my mind went blank. And those were the only words that came to my mind. And a lot of times I'll give a blessing and I don't even remember what I said. That's just what it does. So you're exactly right. The spirit takes over.
Yeah, it's you take that step back and allow these energies. And, there's a lot of different interpretations. But with Aboriginal people all around the world, from Native American Indians to even the old European and Celtic shamans, Aborigines in Australia, in the Himalayas, people, modern science and modern society looks at these people like, oh, they're primitive, they believe in superstitions. Hey, well, you know what? Those damn superstitions work. And we are foolish for turning our back and not taking seriously or doing serious studies on this, because modern science seems to know, they want to think they know everything, but they also are try to keep themselves away from the spirit as much as possible. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to be associated with it, which it's counterproductive, because there is something there and it's measurable. You can measure it. They could do studies. Science likes to take something in a lab and analyze it. With a shamanic healing, there's something right there you could measure. You can measure the activity, measure what happens to the person, and they won't touch it because it's too woo-woo for them. Yeah. But when you practice it, or when you learn to understand it, there's nothing woo-woo about it at all. It's natural energies.
Yeah. And it's a powerful force. Yeah, well, like I said, that blessing I gave to that one girl, I've given others. I use it on my wife. I bless my wife when she is sick and just with a flu and stuff. And I even bless our animals. They got that animal flu that's going around now. And I blessed our little Chihuahua, and immediately she quits. She had diarrhea and vomiting, and immediately she quit, and she started eating and everything. So it works, and not only on people, but on animals also. So yeah, I use it all the time.
With the experiences that you've had in your life, have you ever come across any type of entities, or even just some experience that's so strange that you just literally can't figure out what it was?
Well,
I hear you laughing there, so.
Well, yes, but I don't know how to explain it. I know when I give a blessing, for instance, I can almost tell when the person. Let me give you this example. This lady called me one time. Her husband had been diagnosed with cancer, and she wanted me to come over and give her husband a blessing. So I did, and of course, he didn't get better, and he only had a short time to live, according to the doctors and everything. So anyway, we went over there and saw her, and she wanted me, before I left, give her husband a blessing again. So I went into his room. It was just me and him, and I placed my hand upon his head. I anointed him with some oil, and immediately when I placed my hand on him, I knew that he was dying and that he was not going to be around much longer. In fact, I actually knew that he was staying around because of her. She didn't want him to die, and she was basically keeping his spirit there. And what I did was I released his spirit. I told him that his wife would be all right, and that he needed to go to a better place. He needed to stop the hurting that was going on with him, and I released his spirit. And I told him to go to the light. There is a light, and they do go to it. And I told him to go to that light. And anyway, we left immediately after I gave that blessing. And when we walked into our house, there was a message on the answering machine, and there was this woman, and she said that after we left, her husband had died and had passed, but he was peaceful when he passed. And so there are blessings. Now, this might be some of the strange things that when you lay your hand upon somebody, you know immediately there's nothing you can do for that person. And I really believe when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And no matter what you do, it's going to be your time. And you're going to go. You might delay it a little bit like this man was because of his wife. But he needed to go to a better place. And he needed to go. And for whatever reason, his wife had to experience this experience. I don't know why, but I know when I put my hand upon a person, whether it's going to be good or bad. A lot of times I can feel the person is going to be, I'm not going to be able to heal that person, but I can basically give them some peace and relaxation and in that way. Like this woman that had this mental illness. I couldn't heal her of her mental illness, but I could actually help her with her headaches and help her whether the headaches would leave her and not come back for a while. And that's what I did for her. But as far as that's one thing that I could not explain. I don't know why that happens. As far as your question is concerned, I hope I answered it a little bit. I never really experienced anything that might have been evil or something like that, or that going into the light and seeing that person in the light, you might classify as that because, like I said, it could have been God. It projected itself as God. It could have been an angel. Maybe, we have guardian angels that watch over us. Maybe it could be an angel. At least they say there's guardian angels. I don't know. I've never seen one personally, but maybe that's what it was. I know it was projecting itself as something very powerful. I can't really explain that either. I was raised as a Baptist, and I was raised to believe in hell and to believe in heaven. But hell was preached to me as being in the center of the earth and fire and brimstone. But the hell I went to was not like that at all, and it was not for eternity.
Well, if I have a guardian angel, mine's in rehab. After dealing with me, I don't doubt it. Now, we had mentioned earlier in the program that you feel like a lot of your gifts seem to be getting stronger as you get older. Yes. Can you say in what way that would be? I mean, have you had any more of these type of astral travel events recently?
Well, the one I had most recent was the one where I went to hell, and that was the Christmas before last. I don't get them all the time. Just when they want to say something. I've had where a schoolmate has come to me, and I couldn't figure out why he wanted to come to me, and come to find out he had died and had passed. And I think a lot of times they want to be, they want people to know that they've passed, that something has happened to them in their lives. And I think that's the reason why they come to me. And this guy did. His name was Randy Smith. I think I can say his name. But he came to me. And after, you could ask my wife, if I think of a name and keep thinking of this name for a period of time, it's usually because the spirit is close to me and they're trying to communicate with me. And that's only been within the past, well, I would say probably 20 years. But as I get older, these things become stronger. And I think it's because I live life's lessons. I've learned them. And it's because of these life lessons and because of what I do. It's like a I don't know. It's like an old man charming, I guess. I think as you get older, you don't know how to do the blessings better and how to do things better. And I think that's the reason why they come to me. It could be too because I'm getting close to my time. My wife don't like me to talk about this, but I had a spirit come up to me one time when I was sick. I was very sick. This was about 3 years ago. And the whole right side of my body was messed up. And this voice came to me, and it was the same voice that came to me when I went to see my grandfather. And that voice said as clearly as I'm talking to you right now, and it said, "You're going to die." And that kind of shook me up a little bit. And I never told my wife that until I wrote my book, and I put that experience in my book. And it said I'm going to die. Now, I didn't say when, but my wife keeps saying, "No, you're not going to die. No, you're not going to die." But, I have to, that voice talked to me, and I heard it. And so I have to say what it said.
Well, eventually, at some point, we all have to give up the ghost.
Exactly. But like I said, I don't think you have to fear it. I don't think you have to fear your passing. There's no interruption. When you pass, when you die, your spirit immediately leaves your body and goes to where it's supposed to go. I know this for a fact. I had a person tell me one time they thought when you die, you get buried and your spirit goes down in the grave with your body. And that's not true. That's not true at all. Why would it do that? When you pass, your body, your spirit leaves your body, and you go on, and there's no interruption to that. You don't experience any interruption. It goes on, and the only thing is now you don't have a physical body, and you cannot do those things that you did when you were in this life. Like, for instance, if you have an addiction to drugs, I don't think you're going to be able to satisfy that addiction in the world to come. Or if you were an alcoholic, you're not going to be able to satisfy that in the world to come, at least not immediately. Same way with cigarettes. If you have a habit with cigarettes, I don't believe you're going to be able to satisfy that in the world to come. I know a lot of ghost investigators smell cigarette smoke or cigar smoke when they're doing these haunted houses and stuff. But I don't know why that's happening. I know they're not able to smoke cigarettes and cigars in the place where they're at.
No, but as an investigator myself, I have experienced where they can create a situation where you can smell something that may have a particular meaning. Like if people who smell roses or flowers usually symbolizes something as good or benevolent around, where if you smell feces or decay, rotten meat, that's a pretty good indicator that something nasty is around. Or somebody, let's say Uncle Joe used to love his cigars, and when he died, but they think Uncle Joe's around, and you start smelling his brand of cigars. That just could be, not saying that the spirit is actually smoking cigars, it's that trigger that they're able to affect you to be able to smell that, to let you know as a way of saying, hey, I'm here.
Well, look at me, one night last year it was. Now, the man that built this house, like I said, he was a deacon and he was a blacksmith. I lay in bed, I was fast asleep, and I was woken up by this really, really strong smell of burning metal and oil. That's the only way I can describe it. And the smell of a blacksmith. Yeah. And it was right there in my face, as if he was looking at me in bed saying, what are you doing in my bed? That's the feeling I got, And it hung around for quite a little time before it actually dissipated. But the whole of that room was smelling like that, like a blacksmith's, what they call it, smithery or whatever they call it.
Yeah. A
A forge, yeah.
Forge, yes.
Yeah. And because his forge was actually on the property. It was on the property. And I knew straight away it was Herbert. You know, and I just kind of said, "Go on, go away, Herbert." That was it. So
like when I saw my
they bring back the smells, so you recognize them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like when I saw my grandfather. You know, the smells and everything that I had with the flowers and the grass and everything. It was just magnified, you know, there in this astral projection. And, but yeah, if that's the place I'm going, I'll be totally happy and I won't even have to worry about moving on. I'll just stay there.
Well, Alan, we're coming to the end of the show. And I tell you, I really admire you. And I wish there was more people like you in this world. I really do.
Thank you, Irene.
Yeah, we have come up on the end. Now, Alan, where can people buy your books?
Go to Amazon.com. You can type in one of the titles to my books for a search, or you can just type in my name, Alan Wright, AlanWright, and it will bring you to all my books. Anyway, I sell them through Amazon, and you should be able to buy them through there.
Yeah, Ingram as well, so I see.
Yes, Ingram.
And the actual publisher as well, I presume?
Yes, well, not through the publisher so much. I am a Goodreads author, though, so if you go on Goodreads and go to they have a link to my books on Goodreads.com.
Okay. And do you have a website, Alan?
Yes, I do on Facebook. I forgot what it was.
Forgotten what it's called. You haven't been on that for a little while, have you?
That's true. But it's I'm sure you can go through it on my Facebook. Just punch it in Alan Wright. You come up with two of them, my regular Facebook account and then my Facebook for my author stuff. Okay. And that also has all my books.
All right, lovely.
Well, that's it. We've run out of time. Alan, thank you so much for coming on the program, and I echo Irene's sentiment. It's really was wonderful talking with you tonight and hearing of your experiences.
Thank you, Mark and Irene. I sure enjoyed being on your show. You're a nice guy, and thank you very much.
No, it was lovely having you, Alan. And where can we be found, Mark? Just about everywhere.
Yes,
everywhere.
Screw it, everywhere. No. You can
just
tune in every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean and Eastern Time here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. We simulcast on TalkStream Live and TuneIn Radio and the Paranormal Radio apps. And if you miss a show, we're available on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio.
And everywhere.
And everywhere else.
Okay.
All right. Well, have a great evening. And Irene, we'll catch you next time.
All right, then. Good night, everybody.